All right, hi guys. This is Sarah. So now that I've talked to you guys a little bit about Anki and how to download it and navigate through it, now I'm going to show you guys how to apply it to the information that you'll be presented with in the program. So just to start off, I'm going to be going through some tips that I have for you, and then I'll end off with um, how to apply the Anki program to each of your classes. So tips. So I listed them out on this paper that I gave you guys, but I'll go through them quickly. So the first thing, there's different ways to approach to approach Anki. So you can either add cards. What I mean by that is making your own cards based off of the lecture material, or you can pull cards from pre-made decks. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Personally, I prefer to make my own cards. I find that it correlates best with the lectures, with the assessments. So obviously, the assessments are going to be based off of the lectures and the lecture slides. So if you're making cards based off of the lecture slides, that's probably the best way to go. The only thing is that that's going to take you a lot of time. So I take a lot of time to make cards so that they accurately reflect the lectures. Of course, you can pull cards. A lot of people do that. You can pull cards from pre-made decks, from Anki and Transfer Pearls, and use those cards. Just make sure that you're pulling the right cards with the right tags. Make sure that they correlate well with the lecture material. And if there's anything that is not in there that's in the lectures, you can always add your own cards. Do both adding and pulling to make sure you accurately reflect the lecture material. So you can do that. There's two ways to do about that. Another thing that I mentioned here on this paper, so you can, download lecture slides on your iPad and annotate, and then go to Anki and make cards. You can take notes and then go to Anki and make cards. My personal preference is to go from the lecture directly to Anki. So I don't take notes. The only notes that I take is into Anki. So I directly make cards into Anki from the lectures. I find that saves me a lot of time. Let's see. Another thing that I want to mention is the way you're formatting your cards. So you want to keep them short and sweet. 1 to 2 sentences max, 1 to 2 closed deletions max. You don't want to have really long cards. You want something that you can quickly go through, because you have a lot of cards and these are really going to pile up. And the best way to remember what's on these cards is by having them short. Also on these cards, I think it's really helpful to include images from the lecture slides. So whether it's a diagram, an image of whatever is on the lecture slide, or you can even take a screenshot of the whole lecture slide and put it on the card so that you know where to reference where the material is from. Let's see. Another thing here that I listed is sharing your material. That is so important, and it's something that we really emphasize in our cohort, and has been super beneficial to all of us. Whether it's an Anki deck, whether it's a chart that you made, notes that you made, we think it's super important that you guys are working together, collaborating, sharing the things that you're creating. It's going to save you all time. It's going to be beneficial to all of you. So we highly encourage that. I can actually show you on Anki how to share your cards. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen here. So let's say you are in this deck. What deck are we in? Sketchy. So let me go to the deck. So Sketchy Farm. Let's say we're here, antimicrobials. Let's say you want to share whatever, these cards. Or let's say you want to share the whole deck. Command A, that's going to select all of them. Then you're going to right click, go to notes, export notes. And then if you click on that, that's going to take you to another page where you can press let's see, what is it going to say? It's going to say like, share cards, export notes. It's going to give you the option. You want to uncheck the one that says include scheduling information. You don't want to you don't want that to be checked. You want it to be unchecked because if it's checked, then it's going to mess up the scheduling on the person that you're sending it to, the scheduling of the cards and the way they're presented to them. So you want to uncheck that and then export. And then you can send these through like iMessage. You can send them through Google Drive as well as through Discord. Okay, let me stop sharing. Okay, another thing, you want to complete your reviews daily. So the way that Anki works is it's spaced repetition. So you're constantly, every day you're presented with new cards. And if you don't complete your reviews, which I'm speaking from experience, these cards are going to pile up and you're going to end up with a whole bunch of reviews because you didn't complete your cards. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. You're going to be, even if you're doing reviews every day, it's really hard to complete all of them. I'm just speaking from experience. But try the best that you can to do a little bit every day so that you're not cramming before your assessments. Let's see what else. I suspend all of my cards after each exam. So halfway through the term and halfway through the term and at the end of the term. So after midterms and after finals, I do Command J so that they all turn yellow. All the cards turn yellow and they're all suspended, meaning that they're no longer within the queue. Like they're no longer being assigned to me. Just because of it, obviously, it's important to review all the cards as you go through the terms and the whole year. But it's just unrealistic. There's just way too much information to be reviewing, in addition to all the new information. So come, suspend and you'll review it when you can, doing practice questions and that sort of thing. What's another thing I wanted to say? Keeping your decks organized. This is something that I talked about in the last video, but organizing your decks by the way I like to do it is term, like term one, and then class, so anatomy, and then a week one, and then lecture, like the different decks, like lectures, lectures, lecture questions, that kind of thing. So, this hierarchy of the different decks, that's how I like to do it. Oh, and then how to search for cards within a deck. So let me show you how to do that. I'm gonna share my screen here. Give me 1 second. Okay, let's say we're in the sketchy deck here. Sketchy farms, antimicrobials. We can even further divide it, but let's just keep it at antimicrobials. Let's say I want to search for something within this deck. Let's say I want to search for tuberculosis. You want to go to this search bar here. You don't want to go to the search bar on the left. That's not going to take you to the right place. You want to go here, go all the way to the end, space bar, and then search one word, tuberculosis. If you do 2 words or more, it's not going to come out right. You want to do one word search, tuberculosis. So these are all the cards within that deck that have tuberculosis in it, okay? All right, so that's how you do that. Sorry, I'm a little lost. There we are. Okay, what's next? So that's how you do that. So now preparing for quizzes and exams. So obviously you're going to be, as you complete your reviews, you're trying to avoid cramming. But of course, like before your quiz and your exams, you're going to want to study even more. So I'm going to show you guys how to get all the cards that you want to study within like before a quiz. Let's say it's Saturday today and your quiz is on Tuesday, like a basic science quiz. It's on Tuesday, and you want to review all of the cards that you have from the past weeks for that quiz. How do you get all those cards within one deck, right? So let me show you. Just give me 1 second here. Okay. Okay, let me share my screen. So let's say I have a diagnostic studies quiz coming up and I need to study the material within this deck. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the deck, which I already did from the main screen. Now I'm going to go to the bottom here where it says custom study, click on that. Okay, now I'm going to click on study by card state or tag, all cards in random order, don't reschedule. And then the number of cards, this is the number of cards I'm going to be presented with. I want the most number of cards. I want all the cards within the deck. So I'm just going to put a really big number, like 1,000. There's not 1,000 cards in this deck. I think there's probably like maybe 200 or something. Let's see, but I'm going to just search 1,000 so that I get all the cards. So choose tags. And now, oh, very close, 195. So there's 195 cards in this deck. If I just press study now, see now I'm assigned all the cards in the deck. All right, awesome. So let me stop share. Okay, so that's that. And then last thing I wanted to do today is I want to emphasize that there are many ways to approach Anki. Um, I kind of already touched on this before, but everyone will do it. Everyone will approach Anki differently. And so I'm going to go through each class that you have and line out like the way my classmates and I have found it most helpful to approach the material with Anki. And then I'm going to talk about the way I personally do it because I might do it a little bit differently than my classmates, and I just want to talk about that. So let's see. So clinical medicine. Clinical medicine, there are, you can make cards, you can pull cards, right? So for any topic, you can make cards, you can pull cards. Clinical medicine, making cards, that would be from the lecture questions. So in Canvas, there are lecture questions. Essentially, they're like pre-test and post-test questions for clinical medicine. I would just make the basic card type of the questions. You could also make cards based off of the lectures in clinical medicine. However, I don't prefer to do that, and I don't know that a lot of us do that. It's just a lot. It's just very in-depth, and personally, a lot of us prefer to pull cards from Pants Prep Pearls and then add cards from the lectures where we need to. Let's see. Pulling cards. So for pulling cards, we like to go to the Pants Prep Pearls tag. And I can show you that right here. So let me just share my screen again. Hold on. Let me close out of that. There we are. Okay. So if you see on the left here, all of your tags, and close out of the Anki deck because I'm talking about the Pants Prep Pearls deck for clinical medicine. So if you go to the Pants Prep Pearls deck, you see all these sub tags. Let's say we're in derm right now. I think your first topic is probably derm. So with derm, let's say, I don't know what week one was, but let's say it's hair and nails or infectious or, anything. Let's say it's infectious. And let's say you want to select all the cards in this deck. You can go Command A. I think I went over this in a previous video, but you do Command A, Command J. That would unsuspend all the cards. Command A. You can go to change deck right here, and then you would assign it to, a deck. So let's say we made a deck for this week. So let's say it was term 3, week 1. You would select the deck, move cards, and then that way they're in your deck. So that's how you would do that. Some other people like to use first aid to pull cards for clinical medicine. First aid is a really great resource for really any class, especially like basic science. That's a really great resource for you. But anyways, just to go over for clinical medicine, the way I personally do it, I like to pull cards from Pants for Pearls. I like to make my own cards from the lecture questions, the pre-test, the post-tests, and then a classmate of mine shares her charts that she makes based off the lectures. I love that. I use that all the time. So I use the chart she makes. It's based off of the lectures as well as Pants Prep Pearls, the book. Okay. For PBL quizzes, what do? I stay up to date with my Anki reviews, which are based off of the Pants Prep Pearls. I study the learning issues from PBL. So these are based off of, scholarly articles and great resources for those. And then I also go through the learning objectives for PBL for the quizzes. Okay, leading up to exams, I also like to incorporate practice questions. So I have both Rosh Review and Smarty Pants. I highly recommend splitting, any of these resources. Both are great, but splitting between classmates so that you're not paying a whole lot. That's what we did, and we found that very beneficial. Okay, moving on. So diagnostic studies, what do we do here? So there's not a whole lot of resources that you need for this class. Lectures are very sufficient. So really you're going to make cards for these. So you'd make cards based off the lectures. Of course, it's really great to share cards with classmates. Human anatomy. So what do you do for anatomy? For the most part, you're going to be making cards based off of the lecture material, as well as from the lecture questions that are on Canvas. And then also guided anatomy from Dr. Stewart. He has his own website where he has, it's basically just like the textbook, and it has a bunch of great practice questions on there that are great for the quizzes and the exams. So I do all three of those things. I make my own cards from those. The guided anatomy, it's on that website. I think it's like guidedanatomy.com, but there's also an iBook series. Let me actually see. I can show you guys the iBooks in case you don't like the website. Let me share my screen here. So the website is pretty new. I think it's great, but this is something that we started off with. So if you just go to iBooks, if you have a Mac or an iPhone, and if you just search Human Anatomy Video Project, there are a ton of books created by Dr. Stewart and some other people that have basically what you're learning in the lectures, but in more detail and practice questions as well. So that's really great. Basic science. What do you do for basic science? So you can make cards from lectures, which I highly recommend. You can also pull cards. So basic science is interesting in that there's physiology and there's microbiology. So when you're pulling cards, you can pull cards from Sketchy Micro for micro. You can pull cards from Costanzo for physio, and then first aid is also great for basic science. I believe it has both micro and physio, or maybe just physio. I'm not too sure. I haven't used first aid much, but a lot of classmates highly recommend first aid. So what do I do personally? As I said, I love making my own cards. So for the most part, I make my own cards. However, if I'm feeling tired from making cards, for micro, I will pull cards from Sketchy Micro. I personally am not a huge fan of Sketchy, like the videos. It doesn't click with me. I feel like I have to memorize a whole, character scheme and all that. But a lot of people find it good, so go ahead and try it out. But yeah, so sometimes I'll pull cards from Sketchy Micro. For the most part, I'll just make my own cards. For physio, I'll make my own cards. Also for physio, a great resource is the Costanzo Physiology book. They also have a BRS. I forgot what that stands for, like basic review something. But that's really great for it. It lines up really well with the lectures, the textbook. Next, pharmacology. That's a tough course. But what do we do with that? So with Anki, we like to make cards. So I like to make cards personally based off of the lectures and the lecture questions. A lot of people will pull cards. Sketchy Farm is very popular. Like I said, Sketchy just doesn't resonate with me, but sometimes I will pull Sketchy Farm cards from the Anki deck. You don't have to watch the videos in order to pull the cards. You'll still understand the cards because the cards basically have a screenshot of images from the video, but they still make sense. You don't have to watch the video. Let's see, what was I going to say? First aid is also great for pulling cards for farm. Oh, and another thing that's super helpful for me for farm is my classmate will make charts. Farm charts are great for farm. I really like that. So I will, one, read through the charts, and two, make my own cards for the most part for farm. And charts that she makes are based off of the lectures, and they're also based off of Hippocrates, which is a great application for and website for up-to-date like pharmacology info. Okay, last thing here, patient assessment. You can make your own cards, so based off of lectures and lecture questions. Personally, I don't make cards for patient assessment. We don't have quizzes in this course. It's just exams, but the information is super important. So you definitely need to know the information. But it's just too many cards to pile up if I were to make cards for patient assessment as well. So for patient assessment, I only make cards off of the lecture questions. When I say that, I'm talking about the post-test questions at the end of each unit for patient assessment. But for patient assessment, what I do with the lecture material is I create a whole organized Google document of the lecture material. So I copy the text of the lecture slides as well as what is verbalized in the lecture, and I create a whole organized document, and I find that super beneficial for each unit. But that's it. The other two classes are behavioral preventative medicine and slash wellness, which will have like halfway through term one. And then preparing future PAs. Those are both, you don't have any quizzes or exams for the most part. I think there's a little bit for PFPAs, but like a couple quizzes, but that's it. I don't make Anki cards for those. There's just way too much material to do that. I just focus on the other courses more. But regardless, still good information. So still watch the lectures. But that's it. Thank you for watching. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. I put my contact information on the paper. And yeah, take care and good luck.